Hey, it's me, Mike the Map Maker, back again with a brand new video series called QUEST Bonanza. So I've got a cheeky little magic wand this time. The audio quality wasn't the best last episode, so we're trying something new. Hopefully I'm coming through nice and clear. So how does QUEST Bonanza work? Well, it's dead simple. Each week I'm going to make you a map and an encounter to go with the map. Completely randomly generated. I don't even know what we're going to get once the cards and dice have been drawn. Cards and dice? What are you talking about? Well, with just a flick of my magic wand, check it out! And here we have the Xanathar's Guide to Everything, the book I will be using to help us randomly generate our maps. There's the glorious Xanathar and his little pet goldfish, Zygle, I think his name is. Anyway, if we go through the tome and look through this, well, you're going to see we have everything we need right here. There is a huge section dedicated to encounters in different environments, and it perfectly fits into a D12 roll. Okay, this has got everything we need, all the different environments. We can scroll through, get lots of inspiration, at the very least pick a location for our next map to be. So, how are we going to pick what we're going to actually encounter at this location, this new map? Well, I've got this beautiful tarot deck, the Adventurous Tarot Empress deck. I've got a link for it down below. I don't think it's currently in stock, which is a bummer. It's one of my most prized D&D possessions. It's the most beautiful deck of tarot cards you've ever seen. Check out the swankiness of these cards. Not only is this deck lovely quality with its gold foil, it's also got a ton of different types of enemies and characters you might encounter out on the road as an adventurer in any sort of location. So I think you can guess what we're going to try and do. I'm going to make a mini deck of some of the most interesting cards from the tarot. I'm going to shuffle it together. So taking that mini deck, I'm going to draw one, and that's what we'll find at our encounter on our battle map. Now, I'm not much of a mystic man, but honestly, buying this tarot for the game, it's kind of got me into tarot. You've got this little book where you can actually interpret the cards. So yeah, on a few nights, after a few beers, I've gathered my friends around, I've lit some candles, and I've told them their fortunes, things to watch out for, advice they desperately need. It's ridiculously fun. Not only that, but at the back you have an alternative initiative style of gameplay that you can use the tarot deck with at your games table. So instead of rolling dice and just going one after the other, you draw cards and then you shuffle them each round. You don't know who's going to go next. It's absolutely wicked. Alright, that's enough horseplay. Let's roll the dice and find out where we're going next on our adventure. So I've taken my handsome little box and I've got my handsome little die and I'm going to roll it and we're going to get a 10. We have rolled a 10. That is, of course, an underwater map, an underwater encounter. And now I'm going to shuffle up this deck. I'm going to super shuffle it. Want to make sure this is fair. The magic gets to the cards. I'm just going to spread it out and pick the middle one. And it looks like, ooh, we're encountering humanoids underwater. Underwater humanoids. That's an interesting one straight off the bat. Wonder what I'm going to do with that. Well, I might need a little bit extra help to figure out how to incorporate humanoids in an underwater setting. I mean, before that, though, let's take a look at what humanoid means. Okay, it's all about perception and egoism. If you're looking for some life advice, start to think logically and don't judge people. Okay, great stuff. Get out of here! Okay, now to look for inspiration, I've gone straight to the underwater encounters, and here I've noticed the Sahajian priestess with the regular Sahajins as well. What is a Sahajin? Well, let's consult the monster manual. It's like an ugly fish guy with incredible abs, and they look really fun. They look really interesting. They get blood frenzy and shark telepathy. That's a fun, interesting combination. I'm also going to look at a book by Keith Mann, The Monsters Know What They're Doing. It's a fantastic book if you've never seen it before. Essentially, Keith goes through the monster manual, looks at all the monsters and their stats, and comes up with some reasonable strategies, some behaviours for how these monsters would actually go about in a battle at your D&D table. Okay, so having looked at that, I think the Sahajins are going to be a fantastic underwater foe, and I'm starting to put together an idea of what the map might look like in my head. So let's put away these books, and let's crack our knuckles and get map making, folks. Here we go! Okay, so the first thing I do to start our map is I make the background all one texture, a nice sloppy ocean, and with this map I immediately wanted to have a wrecked ship, a shipwreck in it. I think that might be a really interesting location to fight around. And so I start crafting the coastline around the wreck. I'm trying to visualize maybe a boat in the dark, was trying to sneak through here, didn't realize how actually bad the terrain was, and got tore up for their trouble years ago. And now that I've got the islands and the textures down, I'm adding a few rocks here and there, jutting up out of the water. They're hopefully going to give our PCs something to jump on if they want to stay out of the splash. So we're going around adding textures. I'm experimenting a lot here. There's the old mast on the northern island where it held the sail of the pirate ship. It's still kind of intact. It's still got its sail, but it's all mucky and nasty. And now I'm going around and I'm trying just to get all the colours and textures right. For example, the actual sloppy sea is a bit too sloppy for me, so I try and calm it down by blending a few textures together. And one of the things I really like is if you look on the ship themselves, well, the bottom part I have actually hidden under a layer of choppy water texture. I think that looks really, really good, and that's getting me kind of excited to keep going with this map. Now at the bottom of the map we've got a few surviving items from the shipwreck. We've got a little dinghy, some crates. I'm going to add some kegs as well, presumably full of rum. Is it good? Is it bad? I'll leave that up to you DMs. We're adding plants overgrowing the whole thing. I want to give it a dreary, drab, slightly green look because it's a bit of a miserable ocean day. So now we are going underwater. We're going to have multiple maps for this episode, and the first thing to do is, now that we've splashed deep, I've got to line up the terrain that was above established in the previous map. I'm also going to throw in some seaweed lagoons, little seaweed forests underneath, and add little bits and bobs. Some stamps I think are interesting and make a nice aquatic environment. And as I look at the rocks and the terrain, I'm starting to feel like it doesn't look quite right. So I go for a different technique. I try something new out. What I actually do is I make mini rooms of the rocks, give them a rock texture and a slimy outside, and I think that looks pretty good. So I actually go around. And I actually start doing it for the thick coastline as well. So what you're going to see me do in a sec is I'm going to go around, try and get the outside as best as I can, but don't worry about it too much, and I think that looks pretty good. So I update the other rocks with the same textures. Now I've established what I call the foundation of the map, we can start to add the details. And of course, you know we're underwater, you've got to have a giant clam there. I'm throwing in some seashells. And then I go around, add a few textures, and add a bit of a vignette around the sides, a bit of a darkening. I play around with this coral texture, and I do think it gets a little bit noisy, but then I add the bottom part of the shipwreck underwater, and I love that it's not visible from above. You have to dive in to find out more. Now I do shadow over the tops of the ships, trying to replicate the effect we had before, but in reverse. Didn't look very good, so I try something completely new. I'm going to make it its own little underwater room, and then use the door tool to actually cut out the bottom part of the map. Now, the actual jagged bits of the wood, they looked a bit janky, so what I did was blend it into the background using a bit of a sand texture. And darkening the areas and blending in general makes it come together and look like the actual shipwreck we were hoping for. Now, to give it an underwater look, you're going to see me experiment a lot with the stamps, using different blending options and opacities, and I think the end result does work out, although it did take me quite a while, because each stamp sometimes needed a different type of blend to make it look correct. And by correct, I mean I want the colour palette to look as though it's underwater, that it's been there for a while, and it's gotten all manky over time. So I'm decorating the insides of the ships using a few props that I think tell a story. You've got the desk of the captain's room, a cannon with some cannonballs, even a hammock has managed to survive. So this is coming together now, this map. So at the top, I'm creating a vertical piece of the clam, experimenting with textures and blending, and I think that looks pretty good. There isn't actually an upward part in the stamp, so I had to hodgepodge that just a little bit. And this is where I think the map really kicks into high gear, because I have a moment of inspiration. I take these weird brain corally things, and I think, wait a minute, what if they could be a light source underneath the water? So I change the colour, make them bright neon colours, and I start adding appropriate light sources and try to flood the map with lighting as if it's coming from this weird and mysterious brain coral underneath the ocean. So we go for multiple colours, a bit of yellow, a bit of purple, and a bit of red as well. And my favourite bits is adding these long light beams going through the water, out the sides of the clam, and through the gap on the north of our ship. Of course, at the bottom right, we also have a few windows. So in just a sec, I'm going to go there, and I'm going to start to get the red light flooding out of that as well. Now, one detail it might be hard to see, I'll highlight it in a minute, is on the big rock, acting as a table in the centre of the map, we've got some skull lanterns with some underwater magic candles burning an eerie blue. And we're going to add a bit of a strange dragon statue on the clam, and hopefully you might start to see what we're aiming for with this map, what the encounter is going to be all about as we bring in our horrible fish people. Look, they spilt jam on that table, that was weird. Going back to the top map, we're going to do a nighttime variant as well, just because I'm feeling inspired, and I'm going to take the light that I've made from the bottom map, I'm going to cross-reference it, and I'm going to add it to this map as if the light is glowing from underneath the water. So your PCs arrive in the day, they're not going to see much, but if they come out when the sun's gone down, they're going to see eerie lights glowing around the shipwreck. What could it mean? What dangers could lurk beneath? That brings us to the end of the map. Let's take a look. And there is our first Quest Bonanza map pack completed. We've got 3 maps, day and night, and an underwater arena for your players to duke it out with some spooky fish people. Pretty cool, huh? You know what else is pretty cool? My t-shirt. This is one of my favourites. I can't remember where I got it from, but check it out. Aliens gave my cat a beard. Zoom in on that. Check it out. Whoa. Is that reversible? I don't know. Let's get on with the video. The stage is set then for an exciting quest. Here's the premise. It's morning and a local fishing village is in a panic because many citizens keep going missing at night. Just a couple of hours ago, a beloved member of town was taken. There is a cash reward for investigating and stopping whatever's going on, as well as a bonus if you can bring the NPC back alive. If the PCs go to the scene of the crime, they can discover strange webbed footprints, flecked scales all over the shop, and an intense smell of salt that hangs in the air. They can then follow the tracks out of town to the ocean, or talk to a local, perhaps the old lighthouse keeper, who tells you at night they see large shadowy figures enter the town and then leave soon after. They seem to be coming from the old shipwreck not far out of town down the coast. If the players do any investigations into what the monsters could be, such as going to a library or talking to knowledgeable NPCs, then tell them the name of the Sahajin and slip them some key info from the monster stat block in the monster manual. Once they get to the location, whether it's day or night, they briefly see 2 figures go into the water. Underneath the waves, the Sahajin are about to complete their nefarious plan. Turns out they keep taking people to an altar they've set up to their god Sekula, god of sharks. Shackling the poor victims down before they run out of air, well, the Sahajin priestess says a prayer to her religious idol statue and summons sharks to come and chow down on our victim as a sacrifice. If your players aren't fast, this poor NPC will be shark chow before the fight even starts. When they jump in, they can see a few things. Number 1, they spot the altar with the victim who's shackled down and desperately running out of air. You can also see they seem to be bleeding from a wound they sustained earlier. Number 2, your players see the seaweed forest to the south, a great place for hiding and cover, but it could slow you down. If your players enter into the seaweed forest, I'd say they're naturally stealthed and could get a surprise round. And last but not least, number 3, you clearly see a mystical statue, very important to what's going on. A successful religion tech tells you it's a statue to the god Secular, God of Shots. Now it's up to you to balance the encounter for your players, DM, but here's what I would say. There is a powerful priestess running the show, and as soon as she sees the PCs, try saying that 3 times, she will start casting Hold Person on them, trying to leave them vulnerable to her allies. She is flanked by 2 Sahajin warriors who split up and engage the PCs who aren't being held by magic. After the first round of combat, a group of sharks turn up, and your PCs see the Sahajins do a Professor X style move and psychically command them to attack you. Can your players save the NPC before they run out of breath? Can they even survive the wrath of the Sahajins? Remember, when balancing rules as written, most melee attacks have disadvantage underwater unless you're using weapons like spears or tridents. One more thing though. Your players might be tempted to attack the statue. It's clearly very important, and if they do, well, it's very fragile and will break easily. Once this happens, something changes. You hear a terrifying roar in the depths of the sea around you, and the Sahajin look afraid. They will attempt to retreat, because in one round, a Megalodon arrives. An angel of Secular, enraged at the heresy of destroying their religious symbol, the Megalodon starts attacking any creature that's closest to it. No one is safe. Now, there isn't an official Megalodon stat block in the Monster Manual, but there are lots of custom ones online. Find one you like and tweak it to match your encounter. This Megalodon is not something the players want to tango with. It is deadly. Have it instantly devour one of the Sahajins in its first round to show off how dangerous it is, then let it loose on the PCs. Hiding inside the wreckage might be a great idea. This monster's big and might not be able to get them. And there you have it, gang. A triple map pack that you can download absolutely for free. And you've got an encounter with some disgusting fish people in. What more could you want? So that's it for this week's episode. Tune in for next week. I'd like to tell you what it is, but I guess we'll see what the card and the dice have to say. Keep on trucking. I'll see you next time.